So you want to make something, you've got it in your mind, and you've got the workshop sorted out, you've got the workspace set up. Stop right there. No, stop. No, wait. I got it. Stop right there. There are a few little things that are worth noting, worth talking about, worth discussing before diving into the main deal, the main big things. And this might be partially, me just being a little bit cautious of my own back, When you inevitably chop off your arm and I'm in court defending myself, I want to at least be able to say, no, they did not follow my instructions. I want to be, not my fault. But I mean, there's lots of little things, lots of safety things, lots of bits and pieces that are worthwhile talking about before diving into some big tools. And for this, I'm going to go into sketchbook mode because these are, genuinely little things. These are, I'm going to need, you're going to need to see them. So yeah, let's move over. Right, so here we are, sketchbook. Let's open to a nice clean page because this is the same colour as this and that's not very nice. Right, okay. Oh, that's not a clean page. There we go. Right. And this is probably the first tip, to be honest, is the sketchbook itself. So when I started making things, I would just, draw something out on a piece of paper. I would make the thing, and then I would throw the piece of paper away. And it took me longer than I should admit, really, to realise, well, you know what, it'd be really nice is to have a book of all of the things I've designed and made along the way. Looking back, thinking about it, how nice would it be for me to be able to present to you a sketchbook of the first thing that I made, the 20th thing that I made or whatever, and go for it. How nice a thing would that be to own? And I don't, because I didn't do it. So I bought this, I don't know, a couple of years ago, so it's only got a couple of years of sketches in it. So yeah, that'll be my first tip. Get a proper book, and if you've got an idea for something, sketch it out. I'll take you through the processes of how I'd use the sketchbook itself, in later videos. But the sketchbook itself is just really useful. And get one with good thick paper. You're going to be rubbing stuff out. It's going to be down in the workshop. It's going to be a victim of abuse. So get something nice, solid, rugged, something that's dependable. The paper itself, I think, is really important. Some sort of hard cover. All good things for a sketchbook. I think this one cost me about, I don't know, £8 or £9 or something. They're not expensive. You don't need to go overboard, but it's just something good quality. And then to use on that sketchbook, I like my mechanical pencils. I do calculations for a living. I can spend hours doing calculations. So having a pencil that I can rely on, that I like, is actually really important. So what I use is this little guy. This is a UNI Curatoga. Let's see if I can get it in focus. I really like this pencil. This is an excellent pencil. I've been using it for years, and I've bought many of them. They're a little bit expensive, but it's plastic, so it's lightweight. It's good quality. It's got a nice solid action that is dependable and doesn't really break down. I really like this one. It's light. So this is what I generally use to sketch stuff in the sketchbook. It's just a really good solid pencil. But one thing to note on these things, on all mechanical pencils to be honest, the rubber. So this little guy is a trap. Don't ever use this rubber for rubbing things out. It's just waste of time. It will last about 4 goes and then it will just be gone. And the problem is that in order to put more leads in, you got to use this rubber. You got to take this rubber out and put the leads in. So what? If you rub this guy down to its nubbin, it's a complete nightmare putting the new leads in this guy. And then, this thing, if you rub this all the way down and you lose this little plastic cap, it becomes almost impossible to use. Just a nightmare. I mean, to give you some example, here is the offender. Here is the guy that just sits in a drawer, waiting for me to need parts. This is a parts pencil, and the only reason is because I used the rubber and I lost the cap. So it becomes a nightmare trying to push this thing in to get more lead out. to get lead out at the end. And then I'd lost the damn cap. It's just it's infuriating. So whatever mechanical pencil you get, doesn't matter. It can be this one, it can be another one. Never ever use the rubber. And just make sure these caps, they're just priceless. They're just absolutely priceless. Never lose the caps. You know, don't use the rubber. Get one of these. In fact, don't get one of these. Get a whole box of them. Like, this was no money at all on Amazon. Like, literally no money at all. It probably worked out like 50p a rubber or something. Just get this. I bought years ago, and it's still going strong. There's no reason to get another one. Like, don't use the rubber. The rubbers are useless. Now, for workshop purposes, let's get rid of you. For workshop purposes, I use a different pencil, and the reason is because this lead is really, really thin. When you rub it across the edge of a piece of wood, you know, it runs along the ridges, and this lead just breaks. It doesn't work if you're trying to mark pieces of wood. But I really like my mechanical pencils, so when I got this guy, this is a real meaty guy. So this is a 0.5 size lead. You just use HBs, and this guy is 0.9. So the leads themselves, just see if we can get it on the camera. You know, they're vastly different. One is much bigger than the other one, and this one will mark wood quite happily. And you know, it's metal, so it will last. It's going to take a few beatings. It's doing well actually. This thing. These guys, I could drop it and it would break just instantly. I don't actually like having these things down in the workshop. They're really fragile. This is my workshop guy. Really good. 0.9 mil. That seems to be the good size for me. That seems to work out really well. So yeah, get a mechanical pencil. Don't use a normal pencil where you constantly sharpen it. You know, shaving off with a Stanley knife or using a pencil sharpener or something. You know, they'll find their way down to nothing, and then you got to find a new one. You know, this I've just got a little capsule of leads in the workshop permanently. So every time I need one, I just take this out. You know, rubber's still good, not really been used. Excellent. Put new leads in. Bang, I'm off. Easy peasy. And you can always find a good. You can always find a good sharp edge if you need one. Just rotate it around, and there'll be a sharp edge in there somewhere. Brilliant stuff. These pencils, excellent. Love them. The other thing to mention is a calculator. It doesn't need to be too advanced. It just needs to be able to add stuff together. A basic way. It just needs to be able to add stuff together. For my purposes, I do a fair amount of geometrical stuff. So triangles are really useful. So obviously sin, cos, and tan I use a fair amount of times. But you know, you might not necessarily be familiar with that. You might just want something to add up. It's mostly just used for when I'm in the workshop, so when I'm sketching stuff in the book, so that I can add stuff up quickly. This is a reject calculator. So I use a calculator for my engineering, but I'm a Casio man. This is a Sharp, and I bought this, didn't like it, so I've gone back to a Casio, and this has kind of lived in the workshop ever since. There's like sawdust that looks like it's on the screen, but it's not. It's between the screen and the LED. It's just completely in there. It's not made for being in a workshop, but it still works. And the solar panel seems to pick up the light from the lamps that I've got in here. So that's a calculator, another really good thing. So that's probably, you know, in terms of sketching and preparation, that's probably all you need. I mean, you could probably include a ruler. You know, if you want to start, you know, drawing proper diagrams and everything and having everything to scale in this sketchbook, then a ruler was probably really good. And you might want to get a scale ruler. That's probably really useful. But I don't really use it. This is just for fundamental dimensions for me. I just want to plan. I want to write down a dimension so that I know what it is and I can fix to it. And then if something messes up, then I've got something to go back to and go, oh, that's why it's wrong. That's what the dimension's there for, to check that you're wrong. I don't make many mistakes with this carpentry stuff, but it does happen. Anyway, so that's the prep stuff. Let's have a look at some safety gear. That's the next topic I wanted to cover. Let's get rid of this stuff. So the first thing that I always think about when I'm in the workshop is these things, the hands. These things, you know, you're using these all the time, and these are the prime suspects for injuries. So, you know, these are really important. You know, you're going to use these a lot, so you don't want to lose a finger. Anyway, so there's two different ways I suppose you can go about this. You can go for like uber safety, you know, what's the most safe thing? And you can end up in a position where you're looking at gloves like these, which are, you know, just gardening gloves. But you try wearing something like this in a workshop, you just can't, you've got no natural feel for anything, you know, even your movement is restricted. Just a complete waste of time. So, I mean, I've kind of brought them out just as an example of how far you can go with safety. I wouldn't ever even think about using something like this in a workshop. But, you know, if you're really serious, I suppose that's where you can end up. What I use is these. So these are excellent. Fingerless gloves, you know, meant for weightlifters and Bigfoot in his workshop. Because I still have dexterity. I've still got fingertips. I can still feel things. I can still write things in a workbook. I can still measure things with a tape measure and make accurate marks. Oh, these are brilliant, and it protects the main parts of your hand. You know, when you're using a tool, you're going to grab it, and the prime area for you to get splinters is in the palm. It's right there. And you're still going to get splinters in your fingertips, but these protect you so well. These are a must for me in the workshop. Whenever I'm down here and I don't have them on, my hands just feel completely naked. Just absolutely brilliant. It doesn't feel like you're even wearing anything because you've still got that dexterity in your fingertips. Highly recommend something like that. So next up, in terms of what's the next least, we're working our way down the list of things that I use the most down to the things I use the least. So the next thing on the list is this guy. So obviously we've got sawdust down in the workshop. We don't really want to be breathing that in, and I tend to like having a decent chunky thing. If I'm gonna be using it all the time, which I do tend to use this when I'm using the big saws, and particularly for sanding. You know, it's that fine dust that I particularly worry about. Then this comes in really, really useful, and you know, you can just replace the air filters, no problem. It is a little bit dusty and gunky. It's just because I've not been down the workshop in a while. It needs a bit of a clean and a hoover, to be honest. Maybe even a complete replacement. It's done its job. It's done well. But you know, what you don't want is those fabric ones that, you know, the pandemic ones. You don't even think about it. They're a complete waste of time. If you're using disposable ones, then you're going to be using one every time you make something, and then you're going to be using hundreds of the damn things, and that's really bad. So, you know, make an investment, get a decent one. This was only like 15, 20 quid with the air filters. You know, you're going to need it. Keep it clean. Don't treat it like I've treated this one. So yeah, lungs important. Make sure you take it seriously. Also important, your ears. You know. I don't use these very often, I'll be honest, and it's because not many tools need it. You know, these are all domestic. These are all DIY domestic tools. None of them are very, very serious, so they're not loud. Generally speaking, the only tool that I found caused me problems was the router, the big, chunky, the new. I mean, I say it's new. It's a couple of years old now, but it's when the last one died, I got a big one. That's how I kind of work. I start off with a small one. If I use it a lot, then when it breaks and dies, I'll spend like double what I spent on the first one. And then if I use that one a lot and it dies and breaks, then I'll spend double on that. And that's how I work with these tools. I work my way up the ladder. And then the router that I have at the moment is really, really loud. Before I got these, I'd go to bed and I'd ring in my ears and stuff. So yeah, particular tools, not necessarily all the time, but for particular tools, really important. Obviously, next thing we can go is eyes. I very, very rarely wear these. I'll be completely clear. You know, I've never really felt like my eyes are in danger down here. It's only been when I've been working on something really, really close to my face, something really, really small, or something, you know, spinning very, very fast right here. Then yeah, I've whipped these guys out, but yeah. I'd spend 5 or 10 minutes looking for them. I couldn't find them anywhere because, you know, they just sit in a pile somewhere. I mean, and then if you're going heavy duty on the gloves, you could also go for something like this. Now this, this guy. So when I moved into my house, I was doing some really, really horrible manky jobs. and I was wearing this all the time, and it was brilliant. You know, face protection, eye protection. This screen is a nightmare, but air filters were good. I mean, since then, it's just kind of sat on a rack and got really, really manky and disgusting. But, you know, if you're going hell for leather on the safety, this is probably the kind of place where you'll end up, you know. I just can't imagine someone doing, you know, fine carpentry, you know, finesse, you know, really, with these things on. Sorry, but yeah, I'm just giving you them as an example. I wouldn't ever recommend using this stuff. This is the wrong stuff for the job. You know, what you want is like a collection of little items that you can pull out as and when you need them, and the gloves that to wear all the time. That's how I play this game. So that's probably it for safety equipment. I don't have a lot of safety equipment. This is the extent of it. Let's move on to the next thing, which is going to be, you know, similar to the workbook, but for marking up wood. You know, how do we do that? What tools do we need for that? So let's get rid of this stuff and move on to the next thing. Oh, let's just straighten you up a touch. There we go, that's better. So, marking up pieces of wood. Obviously, we've got our big chunky 0.9 mechanical pencil to actually do the marking itself. What do we use other than that? So, first thing, tape measure. There's one. And I have a principle in this workshop, and it is that with stuff like this, little things, it's inevitable that I'm going to lose it. So, I always have at least 2 of them in the workshop, because it's one of them I won't be able to find, you know. And if I've got 2, then maybe a third, maybe a big fourth one as well, you know. If you're going that far, this is my work tape measure. This is not down. This lives in my car because it goes and measures up walls for beams and stuff. This pointless. This one having the work down in the workshop. 10 meters. There's no way that's useful. You know, a sheet of plywood is 2.4 meters long, and most of the stuff I make is out of that stuff. So, yeah, this guy. But you know, if you're on a building site, there's a certain machismo attached to tape measures. You know, you turn up with a big chunky boy like this, and they look at you differently. You know, they're actually envious. They're waiting for you to put it down so they can nick it. But anyway, that's work. So these 3 guys, these are probably the workshop, and you know, this is a cheaper version of these. These Fat Maxes are the ones that I like the best. They're big, they're chunky, they do the job. You know, even the small 5 meter one is just excellent. You know, but in terms of these are Stanley is I'm pretty sure it's UK based, but it's not actually, thinking about it. So these are probably available. These might be available everywhere. I think these are the best ones that I've found. You might find other ones that you like, that are the local varieties. Get one that's chunky, that's going to take a few hits, that, you know, and get several of them. Bright colours help. You know, you want to be able to find it. Yeah, but other than that, it's just a tape measure. You just want to make it a good one. Now, this one I'm not much of a fan of. You know, if you put the 2 together. Yeah, I like this one. This one's good. This one's kind of just yeah. If I've got these 2 next to each other, then I'll go for this one, regardless. Even though it's longer, it doesn't matter. You know, I'm only measuring small stuff. So tape measures, useful, obviously. We also have set squares. Set squares. This is, you know, old school, standard stuff, not changed in probably a millennia. Just your basic standard set square, and it does the job that you want it to do. You know, what do you really want from it? If that's not enough for you, then you can go for something like this, which is, you know, I think this is a roofer's set square. But it's just really, really useful, chunky. It's plastic, but it's, you know, really thick. And why I like it is because, number one, it's got this big, long, flat plate on the bottom, which, you know, gives me a lot of security that it's set properly. You know, this one only a very small base. So you've got to make sure that it's absolutely right to guarantee that this is 90 degrees, whereas this one, it's actually very difficult to get it wrong. It's just so big and chunky. And it's got angles, you know, so if I've got a pivot point down here, for example, I can mark off an angle, draw a line, that give me that angle. It's just, you know, it's just a nice thing. I like having it around. I use both of these equally, to be honest. The angles only really useful, you know, if this is along the edge. If we want to say the center of a circle, then here, then this is useless. And so what I have for that situation is a protractor. Useful, yes. They're normally very, very thin plastic, normally very flimsy. They're not generally made for being in a workshop. If you're getting one, I mean, this is a schoolboy error. If you're looking at protractors, it's so often they get it wrong. You want the center to be clear. Where's my pencil? Let's just say, for example, I've got a center that I want in here. You know, and if I couldn't see what this was doing, then how would I know where the center was? The only way you're going to know is if you can see through it and you can line up the center exactly. So, I mean, I've seen steel protractors on Amazon where you can't, the center's just a piece of steel. How do you line up a center? How does a protractor become, you've made a protractor completely useless by covering up the center point. Anyway, minor gripe over. Protractor, very useful. One of those things, it's here, and then you forget about it, and then you need it for this one situation, it's one little job, and then it's priceless. But yeah, that's probably that's my, oh, we've also got, yeah, I've missed an item. Oh, and we've got things like this, you know, Spirit, or the proper old boy gear. We've got a big boy, you know, proper big old boy gear. This is, ultimately, I've only ever found this stuff relevant when you're fixing stuff to a wall. Because, you know, if you're fixing stuff to a wall, you want it to be absolutely perfect. This is probably the wrong, you can't really do this with this camera angle. But if you're fixing it to a wall, you want to be able to get it absolutely level. You want that unit to be absolutely level. You know, if you've got a standalone unit and it's sat on the ground, then it will just be whatever you made it. You know, these things, and putting something flat and level in this workshop, you know, the concrete slab on the floor is all over the place. The idea of anything being level, I mean, how is this workshop, this table? That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm actually impressed by that. That's better than I thought it was going to be. Anyway, useful to have around, yes. How often do I use it? Very, very little. But yeah, I think it's one of those things. You'll do fine without it until you find that specific purpose that you need it for, and then you'll need it. Okay. So that's marking up of wood. What are we going to do next? Let's have a little chat. Let's have a little chat about glue. That's an important topic. Get rid of this. Oh, let's rub you out. Don't need you anymore. Right, so glue. So I have this. This is basically just a container. It was a Gorilla Glue thing, Gorilla Glue container of PVA that I used, and then once I'd used it up, I refilled it with the glue that I use in the workshop. This is just a container. I thought the Gorilla Glue container with this little lid on it was the best one that I could find. This is years old. What I fill this with is this stuff. I mean, quite literally, no nonsense PVA. I mean, the most basic, simple PVA, the kind of PVA glue you'd use for your kids' papier-mâché. That's the wood glue that you want. It's just the basic stuff, nothing complicated. I wouldn't even worry about getting the waterproof stuff. That is like, it's like oil based. So when you use it to glue stuff together, acts like a lubricant. You know, everything slides around. It's horrible stuff, that waterproof glue. This is the stuff to use. And to be honest, if you're making something wooden to go outside, then you want to waterproof it in the finish. You know, you want to get several coats of paint on it. You don't want to have to rely on the waterproof in the glue. You know, you want to prevent the water from getting to the glue in the first place. I have got a tub of waterproof PVA over there. It sits unused. Yeah, I hate the stuff. Absolutely loathe it. Just get the most basic, most simple, cheap PVA glue in the biggest tub you can find, or not as biggest, the most usable tub, you know, that fits in a hole, and get any old half a litre tub of PVA glue from a tub that you like and think will last. Simple stuff. Really, really simple. And if you end up in a situation where you've got a joint or something which is very, very sensitive and you want to be very, very strong, particularly if you aren't screwing it together, you know, if you're doing something very, very small, where if you put a screw in it, it might split the wood apart, then you can't really rely on this stuff. You want to use something a bit more heavy duty. Then I have this stuff lying around. This isn't really, yes, it's Gorilla Glue, but it's the stuff inside. The stuff inside is the important stuff. This is a polyurethane glue. It's like liquid plastic. Absolutely excellent. Doesn't necessarily have to be Gorilla Glue. Just has to be polyurethane. I'm pretty sure that was what it was. Maybe I'll check that later. And it just... it's normal glue. You put it together two surfaces, and it's solid like a rock. Honestly, I've made a few bowls where I've got like two delicate edges of plywood that are glued together, and I did it with PVA, and I just tapped it, poof, and the whole thing just fell apart. I made it with this stuff, and I was bulletproof. Honestly, those bowls are still going. I've got one in my kitchen. Just excellent. If you're looking for something that really needs to, with some strength to it, your polyurethane is the answer. So that's glue. Let's have a look at some more stuff. So what we have next is a big old random box of bits. Ugh, look at that. These don't live in here. I've just put them in here just to make it easy to show you. Knives, brilliant. Always useful. If you're gonna get one, make sure it clasps in on itself, and whenever you use it, make sure you always put it back in. You know, if you put this down, you're doing something else over here, and you just grab it, you're gonna cut yourself. Just horrible. These are things that are super sharp. Always, you know, get one that clasps back. You know, and these are super nifty. Not expensive. Really, really cool. Yeah. Just make sure that this is just a cheaper version. It just does the same thing. Yeah, again, this is my workshop philosophy in action. You know, don't have one of something in the workshop, but have two, and you'll always definitely find them. Although if you have two, you'll always find two. Anyway, that's a knife. The rest of the stuff in the box. So we've got a beaten up rubber. That's the same. That's from the box. That's from that box of rubbers that I showed you earlier. Still got some life in it. Still got a lot of life in it. A lot more life than those. There's only one at the end of the pencil. And then I've got these are the leads for the pencil leads for my big 0.9mm pencil. You know, just keep it in here. It's a really, really solid plastic case. It's actually very, very difficult to break one, but at least it seems to have been anyway. You know, other than that, this is just a useful box of stuff. You know, if I have a small piece, you know, like a drill bit or something, then it goes in here, because where else is it going to go? Anywhere else you put this stuff down, you're just going to lose it. It's just so easy. All of this you know, anytime I need a little piece, anytime it goes straight in this box, and then I know where it is. And I've got like jigsaw blades, little big jigsaw blades. I saw a little one in here not long ago. I've got big kahuna drill bits. You know, it's two countersinks, because you know you might lose one. You just never know. These things. I've got several. Those are looking really sketchy. really rusty. But I got maybe 5 or 6 of these. These are, you need so many of these. These just get lost like nobody's business. Yeah, little drill bits, you know. And yes, it's completely caked in sawdust at the bottom. You know, I lose things in here all the time. If I spend 5 or 10 minutes looking for something in here and I can't find it, then I just have another one. You know, I've got a whole box of this stuff, spares and bits. Yeah. So, that escaped. A box for little bits. Priceless, absolutely priceless, and get something that's, you know, reasonably sized. I think I started off with a box about half the size, and it was graduated up to the big boy, and it was fine. I was brilliant. Yeah, just useful to keep all the little bits together. Also, we have clamps. You know, I really like these. These are really, really cool. Simple. You know, you just pull this lever, it opens up. I mean, you can just do it with one hand, you know. I can hold something, and slowly clamp it together, and then it's clamped, and then I can let go. And brilliant little thing. Love it to bits. I've got about a dozen of these. I had a project where I was trying to glue some plywood together and bend it so that it creates some curved things. And I had needed loads of these just to hold it whilst the glue was drying. It was a complete disaster. A complete disaster. I ended up chopping it up and throwing it away. I was so angry with it. But I still got the clamps. They're really useful. And if that doesn't do the job, because obviously this is only like 300mm, a foot long, then you just go for a bigger one. And I've got like 3 or 4 of these. These are super useful. Same deal, exactly the same deal. You just pull the trigger, and still you do it one hand. These have an added feature in that you can take this thing off, put it on the other side. Oh, that's not going in. There we go. Anyway, and then this will like try and separate something apart, so it'll work away rather than clamping it together. Just a useful feature. These are too small and pathetic to do it. But you know, it's a very rare use. I don't use it very often, and so I don't need many of them to do it. Just a nice piece, just a nice thing. These clamps, I like them. Yeah, if I need more, I'll buy more. You know, these are good. And then we have, you know, other slightly more niche clamp. This thing is a new addition to my workshop. Really useful, really good. You know, I've got a lot of tools down here that I've bought and never used. That I've just thought, I've tried and I didn't like it, and it went in a drawer. So I'm just going through my favourites. This is another one of my favourites. It might not be a new edition, but it's excellent. So this is for clamping 2 things together at 90 degrees to each other perfectly. So if we have a piece of wood like so, and another piece of wood like so, let's get rid of you, put it together. It will hold it there at exactly 90 degrees. It's just, I mean, I know it doesn't line up. That's because the cut on this piece of wood is bad, I think. Oh no, just wasn't down right. Yeah. Whoa. Yeah, 90 degree, having an item that will guarantee a 90 degree perfect join, priceless, absolutely priceless, you know. Just imagine this as a big piece of furniture. You know, big sheets of ply that are really difficult to hold in place, and I'm trying to manhandle it. Just a couple of these ones, and it's all together, and I just bang a few screws in, and jobs are good. And yeah, highly recommend. Very useful. Yeah, I mean, all of this stuff, by the way, I'm just giving you an introduction to the stuff that I use. I'm not telling you to go out and buy all of this stuff. You know, if you see it and it has a clear purpose, and you know, I need that. That's going to be really useful. Then great, fantastic. If you look at it and think, that's pointless, I'm never going to use it, then just ignore it. You know, these are my favourite items. Maybe I should go through some of my least favourite items. You know, the things that I don't use, and I'll save that for something some other day. But other than that, that's my whole table of goodies I've gone through. That's everything. So yeah. I hope it's been fun. Till next time.